Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome back to some of you. We still have another minute to go, so some people may still be joining. But we're going to make this one a short one so we can have time for more questions since we had so many questions come in yesterday and we'd really like to focus on you leaving here with your questions answered. So it is 3:45 and these are recorded, right, David, so they can watch later?
Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome back to session 2 of the EcoLeaders Career Conference with the National Wildlife Federation. And as I just said, this is the second session of 2. Yesterday, if you weren't here, we went through a career planning worksheet, and you can grab that in the chat box. And we started with your direction of your career, how to visualize where you'd like your career to go, the importance of that, how your career path is kind of like going on a hike. And so if you want to learn more about that, watch yesterday's recording. And then we answered a ton of questions about LinkedIn, about high school students versus college, all kinds of things. So if you have questions today, we'll hopefully have time to answer all of them as well. And I think that's it before we get into today's stuff. Do you have anything to add, David?
Sounds good.
All right, David and I are co-leading this. And so if you weren't here yesterday, I'm Laura Thorne, the environmental career coach, and I've spent the last couple of years coaching people in their environmental career journeys. And so I've learned a lot helping other people try to figure out what they want to do and hearing the same questions and the same challenges over and over. So one thing I can say to you is that you're not alone in any challenge you think you're facing in your career planning. Everyone goes through the same thing. I lead a podcast called Environmental Professionals Radio, and you can tune in and listen to other environmental professionals about how their career paths went. David was one of our last interviews, so he is right on the top of the list. If you check out EPR, you can listen to his and learn more about his career path and things he thought he knew when he started and things he learned as he went. And yeah, that's about it. You want to introduce yourself again, David?
Yeah, I'm going to try not to take it personally that my podcast episode was released on April Fool's Day. My name is David Corsar, and I manage career development programs at the National Wildlife Federation. The EcoCareers Conference is the biggest of those programs, but it's also tied in with some of our other higher education and leadership development initiatives, such as the EcoLeaders community. And so you'll hear us referring to the EcoLeaders community, and I definitely recommend that after the conference you check that out. If you don't already have a profile, it's free, and there's tons of resources and tools to help you both plan your career as well as plan projects in your community or on your campus.
Which is a great way to stand out. I think that was one of the questions yesterday, how to stand out on your resume. Take up one of those projects. All right. So first thing, we had the worksheet that we referred to, and the link is in the chat box if you want to grab it. We are most of the way through it, and I think we're mostly going to spend today at the bottom part of that, where you kind of have an idea what your direction is, and then we'd love for you all to leave here with what a next step for you might be. And here are some more examples from the conference, which David's going to speak to.
Yeah, I think that there were a lot of really great examples both yesterday and today that tie in with the themes of having a vision and doing the self-assessment, the exploration of oneself, as well as what options are out there. So if you were able to join in yesterday's panel on environmental justice careers, Dr. Sakobi Wilson described how his mission was rooted in his personal experiences with living nearby sources of pollution and environmental racism. And I loved this quote: "You have to know what your why is in life and stick to your why. Don't let anyone stop you from making your why happen and your vision for yourself." And in the same panel, Sarah Lily Sewell, she contrasted. She described that while she didn't grow up experiencing the direct effects of environmental racism, she found herself drawn to that work as she proceeded along her career. And she brought up a Venn diagram of considering your strengths, what you're passionate about, and what the market needs, i.e., what can you get paid for? And it's important not to try to make sure that everything is always perfectly aligned either. A lot of the speakers talked about starting in one direction gaining from that, gaining some knowledge and skills, and using that in a different direction once they were better able to align those different aspects of a career.
Awesome. Those are great examples. And I think too, a little bit of what we talked about yesterday is, and what I talk to a lot of young persons about too, especially if you're in high school or something, you don't have to know what your passion is. Everyone talks about your passion. Your passion doesn't become evident to you until later in life in most cases, unless you are like Mr. Wilson, who is, or Dr. Wilson, who has been experiencing something their whole life. But the key word there is experience. So until you've gotten experience and gone out there and explored, you may not have crossed paths. Whatever that thing is going to be your passion. And some people, I think, don't ever really get to where like, oh, I'm crazy passionate about this. I'm going to go start my own company around it. Some people just want to help the environment. It's a little bit more broad. So there's nothing wrong with you if you haven't discovered that, or it's not evident to you, like, what's my why? You know, it's great to say stick to your why, but it's okay if you also don't know what your why is yet. But we did talk a lot about values, and your values will shape what your why is. So that's some of the work that you can do around that. And connecting where you are now to your vision is a lot of what we talked about yesterday. And just to recap, it's about discovering what your values are, what your skills are, all those things we just talked about, and envisioning what you would like to spend your time doing, or what issue you want to spend your time addressing. Is it climate change? Is it water related? Is it animal related? And then now that you've figured that out a little bit, we talked about having a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C if you're not sure. So you have multiple directions to explore, much like you might go on a hike and pick your top 3 options that you might go down. And now today we're going to talk about, okay, I kind of have an idea where I might want to go. I want to explore something in a certain area. What is my next step to get me there? And so I don't know if we have this somewhere else in the slides, but if you guys want to start typing in, like to get you guys active in here and participating, if you want to type into the chat, if you went home and you discovered and kind of thought about what maybe one of your A, B's, or C's would be, if you have an idea of the direction you want to go in, or already maybe you came to this already having it, but if you want to enter that into chat, that would be great. That will also help you figure out what your next step should be. The other thing that just sparks my mind about why this is important is because when you are networking and you are meeting people, it's easier to ask someone to help you with something that's more specific. So if you meet David and you say, oh, I want a career in the environment, but you have no idea what that is, he can't go and check in his memory bank who he knows to help you, because it's everyone. But if you're more specific and you say, I want a degree in snow leopard conservation, he's like, oh, I know somebody who does that. Exactly. So the more you can kind of think about that, the easier you can connect to your next steps. And you might follow that path and go, oh, that's, there's 2 people that do that and there's no room for anybody else. I'm going to pick a different animal, whatever that might be. But at least you've explored it and went down that path. So, all right. Nobody has any idea. Come on, someone put something in the chat. Conservation, marine science, social justice, feeding the world, climate change. Just because you write it down doesn't mean it has to be the end all be all either. Awesome. Ooh, Carol. Pollinator habitat. I love it. We interviewed, what is his name? Jeff Allerton. He wrote a book on pollination and he was a guest on the EPR podcast. You might love that episode. All right. Some more brave takers. Thank you. Eugenie, thank you. And welcome back. Next steps to career K-12 and college career education focused on climate solutions. Awesome. So see how I just gave you, that was a great example, right? Carol, you told me what you're interested in and I know somebody for you just like that. So the more you have that vision and you can talk to people about that vision, the more people will help you build it. Sustainable architecture. Awesome. There's also one of our most popular episodes is Lauren Staniak. She owns her own environmental design sustainable design company. Super fun interview. Environmental education. Oh, I know somebody who does that. Environmental dance. That's interesting, Zoe. What is that? Can you explain that a little more in the chat? I'm always looking to learn. There's new things all the time. Using your university campus as a living lab for students. Awesome. Thanks, Zoe. You guys can keep adding those. We'll move on to our near-term and long-term planning, kind of the differences. And I don't remember, David, if you're talking on this or me.
I'd be happy to jump in. So I think that sometimes it's easy to get caught up in both, or in the question of here's where I am now and here's where I envision myself later, and not filling in all of the points in between. And so that's what this slide is sort of trying to prompt, is to say, if you see yourself as an environmental lawyer or an environmental engineer working on air pollution, or a resiliency manager for a large urban city, you're not going to get those positions immediately outside of high school or outside of college. There's going to be some stepping stones along the way. And so this is trying to think about what are some of those stepping stones, and just to prompt that, and as you write out your career plan in those worksheets. And so this slide, it's got a lot of text, but it's really just examples for what are some things that I can focus on in the next year, what are some things that I can focus on in 3 to 5 years, and then where is it that I hope to go in the end. And having all of those in mind will help you, again, with the discussions that you have, like Laura's saying, when you have a little bit more specificity, the people in your network can help you that much more.
Awesome. So yeah, these are good ideas. A lot of things we talked about yesterday too. Credentials is a good one. There's a lot of different ways that you can join an organization as a student, or get student credentials, or in training credentials for things.
Laura mentioned earlier about thinking about different scenarios. So going back to the career pathway as a hike metaphor, let's say you had this really fantastic plan. You knew exactly how you were going to get to the summit. You mapped it out. You talked to trail guides. You're fully equipped. You get there, and one of the paths or bridges is washed out. What do you do now? You might be able to give up. You might give up, or you might say, look, I remember from talking to these people and looking at these maps that there were other choices. I chose this one, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to stick with this one. And so that's what that's why we recommend folks think about a few different possible scenarios. And we're not necessarily saying the scenarios have to be vastly different. We're not talking about plotting, a career plan to be a marine biologist, and to be an astronaut, and to be the next Supreme Court Justice. Congratulations, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. But maybe 3 scenarios that are within a particular field that are related but different. And so that way, as you're proceeding along your pathway, along your career pathway, you have a few ideas of where you could go if different situations change. A really fantastic position comes along, you get a scholarship to study somewhere, and you can pivot that way because you've already planned for having some flexibility in your career plan.
Right. So I think we started this a little bit in the chat, but if anybody wants to add or think about how you could split the vision that you have into a couple different exploratory areas, this will help you too when you go into an actual job board and start putting in job titles. You're going to find very quickly that if you just put wildlife conservation, you're going to need some different names to put in, whether it's wildlife project manager or wildlife technician or something. You need to have a good set. It's kind of like building hashtags. Younger folks are probably more familiar with that. You need to kind of figure out what set of job titles you could be looking for, and you can kind of think about those. They all have a little bit of a different job description, a little bit of different skill sets may be required. So if you can be looking at those different things too, that might also help you figure out which one you like best also, because there might be some not so obvious differences in between the types of jobs, like an environmental project manager versus an environmental educator can have very similar backgrounds, but do very different work, and also dependent on the company as well.
I'd like to challenge the folks that entered potential pathways in the chat box to come up with 2 or 3 different options along those pathways. So Carol, you mentioned pollinator habit. I'm picking on you because you were first. You were the bravest of the bunch. What are some different positions or careers that you could see that would incorporate pollinator habitat in central to your career, but might be different ways you could go about that. And then everyone else, I'd love to hear your scenarios that you come up with. Absolutely. Director of sustainability at a school. Those are often folks who are deciding what the budget is for putting in pollinator habitat at schools, where they're going to happen, working with facilities management, which was a hint. Facilities management is another place that we actually work a lot with in our programming to improve the sustainability on college campuses. So sometimes we're working with administration, sometimes we're working with faculty, sometimes we're working with facilities managers. Teacher working on a grant with student involvement. Excellent.
Yeah, I was just going to say grants. I was a habitat restoration manager, and we don't think we had any pollinator projects, but I could very well have gone out and tried to create one or partnered with someone who was looking to do that on some of our properties. Oh, that's awesome, Carol. And that is another thing. Having a vision helps you to figure out, if you're going to go for your master's, what kind of project do you want to work on? What kind of faculty do you need to meet? Who do you need to, so you don't end up doing, I know people who have done horrible jobs for their thesis projects because they didn't have a vision. So when you do that, you get stuck with the project that a professor wants to have done and nobody will do. Okay, environmental dance is an umbrella term for the plethora of dance and somatic practices concerned with the body's relationship to landscape and environment, including the other than human world of animals and plants. This website, you like this website because you can use dance as a form of activism and awareness. Very cool. I like that.
So if you did not get a chance to check out the interview yesterday with Vic, we started it out with a video featuring a dancer and tied to the environmental message of the video.
Yeah, I caught the end of that presentation. It was great. Maria, sustainability in corporations, not specifically architecture or sustainability and environment, such as large events. Not sure what specific job titles, but they would also be interesting to me. Yeah, so that's one of the things I also recommend. If there are any opportunities where you say, this is an area I don't know, write that down and then make that part of the action steps that you have coming up to fill in those blanks. I don't know what job titles to search for. I don't know what skills I need for this. I don't know who to reach out to. I don't know how long this will take. Keep a documentation of all those questions you have. And as you fill in those questions, that will help you figure out what your next steps should be. And one of your next steps might be figure out the answer to this question. And you can do that. A great way is to have a mentor. So if you can find somebody who's in the field that you're interested in, then you also can bring those questions to them too. And that's a way that you can get those questions answered. And you have a really great conversation with them because you have these questions and not just like, hi, tell me whatever you can tell me. You're like, I need to get these questions answered. So this is why I asked you here. And they'll appreciate that too.
I will say, I try to answer every message on LinkedIn that I do get, but I am a lot quicker at answering questions where folks are coming at me with some specific things that they're trying to figure out, as opposed to someone saying, I care about the environment. Where can I get a job?
Totally. I can agree with that 100%. Okay, so let's talk about taking those steps. We've only got less than 15 minutes left. So we want to talk about those steps and then get all your remaining questions answered if we can. And I'm sorry, I'm juggling all these different boxes here. So some suggested next steps to join EcoLeaders community if you have not already. And David mentioned that there are projects there that you can work on. In today's market, with how competitive it is to get these jobs, there are a lot of people who are, it's great on both sides. There are a lot of environmental jobs being created. Like there's environmental dance. There's new things that are coming up that did not exist even a year ago. So that's wonderful. But the number of people who want to be on the side of fighting climate change and get into these roles has increased as well. So there's a lot of competition in the actual application process. So you want to have ways to stand out, and that should be part of the planning that you do too. So fill out your career plan. that even just having a career plan, I always tell people helps you stand out because 95% of people don't have a plan. They're just stumbling into whatever, filling out applications and crossing their fingers and hoping that they get picked. So having a plan will help you fill those gaps and keep learning and moving along quite faster than anybody else. And it will show in the application process. Connect to 5 other conference attendees. There's tons of people here on this list. Look at those names. You can always connect with me or David. And I see somebody's, is that you, David? Yep.
That's me.
I'll put mine in there. I'll put mine in there too. But yeah, don't be afraid to connect with people. If the worst case is they're just not going to accept it, who cares? But if they do, acknowledge it, thank them for connecting, start building that relationship. Reach out to 5 professionals in your field of interest. Your professors are an easy place to start. Whether even if they inspired you 5 years ago, just reach out and say, hey, I'm still on the path and I appreciate all the advice you gave in this class. From you guys, what other ideas do you have for next steps for yourselves?
Yeah, I'd love to hear some ideas in the chat box. Laura, I have to apologize because I know I included bad words, informational interview on this slide. We think it is very important and very beneficial to reach out to folks, whether you are already connected in your network or not. But maybe you could explain how would you recommend folks asking for that information without making it sound so dry and blah as an informational interview.
Right. So the reason that we're laughing about that is I tell people stop asking for informational interviews because kind of like David said, you get an email or message from someone and they're just like, I care about the environment. Can you help me find a job? You're like, no, I don't know what you want. I could connect you to millions of people. I don't know. So the same thing when someone reaches out and says, hi, I want to talk to you for an informational interview. That says, 1, I just want something from you. And 2, I want you to make a job for me. And most people are going to go, I don't have the capacity for that. And they're not going to intentionally they don't feel bad about it. You don't have to feel bad about asking for that, but they're just going to be less likely to respond because it feels like a heavy ask. So I prefer that you ask people for a meet and greet. I would like to ask you questions about the job that you're in so I could learn from it. And if there is a position available, that will come about. But you don't have to force their hand or make them feel because some people will feel like I'm not in a position to give you a job. So they're going to shy away from taking an informational interview. So if you just want to talk to somebody in a company who's an environmental engineer and you want to learn more about what's entailed in their job, they're going to, especially engineers who are shy people often anyway, they're going to be a little bit intimidated and might say no just because, or not answer you because they feel like there's too much pressure to try to do something for you. But if you're just inviting someone to spend 15 minutes to just get to know them, to ask them some questions, they're going to be, I believe, a lot more likely to accept your request. So that's all. If you've asked for informational interviews before, don't feel bad about it. But I think there's a better approach. Okay, I don't hear any other ideas. So let's give them these resources and then take questions for our last minutes.
Sure. So I just wanted to include just a handful of resources. I was including some in the chat box throughout the presentations, but of course, our Career Center, the EcoLeaders Career Center, especially for folks who are at that early stage of kind of grappling with a lot of different ideas and possibilities. This is a great place to go to learn a little bit more about each sector, about each field, ideas for projects, ideas for degrees, and a way to step into each of those fields. For job listings, if you are in the position of needing a job now, I think that the Green Jobs Net is the best newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter, but what I like about it is that it is everything's verified and everything is kind of gone through a filter of environmental career professionals. Professional Diversity Network is doing a series of virtual career fairs to check out, and we are obviously proponents of getting yourself on LinkedIn to get your name and your profile out there. And LinkedIn for Students is a great resource to help those of you who may not have a lot of work experience, have an engaging and attractive LinkedIn profile. Of course, also check out Laura's resources for LinkedIn for students.
Yes, and I had also promised a LinkedIn checklist that I forgot to grab the link, so I'll do that before we go here too. You can also go to my website, theenvironmentalcareercoach.com. There's a blog with lots and lots of articles, some of them even also written by other students. I accept guest writers if anybody wants to share their career search experiences or any other advice. There's also free webinars, lots of advice on how to network. I focus heavily on the networking aspect, links to helpful links, all kinds of, there's just tons of free stuff there you can scan through. And including a networking map that I'm trying to add to and build. So if you have an organization you work with, you'd like to add to that, you can message us and let us know. And you always feel free to just ask a question. So I think, take a look at the next steps on your worksheet. And, in the next 5 minutes, if there's questions you want to ask about what do I fill in, what could I be doing, what should be my next step, now's the time to ask. And I'm going to jump off and grab that LinkedIn checklist for you.
If you don't have a question,
not jump off, but just stop the screen share.
If you don't have a question, please enter in the chat box. What is one next step that you're going to commit to taking after this conference is over to advance your own career, whether you're here for yourself or on behalf of the students you serve? And Laura, I'm going to have to actually jump off to get the next session started. But thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And I will be in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Likewise. Thanks, David. All right. If anybody wants to add any questions, feel free. I'm still grabbing that checklist for you. Here it is. My computer's a little bit slow while Zoom is on, so... Okay, here we go. Okay, Eugenie, learn more about different career sectors. That is a great next step. Create a LinkedIn account. Awesome. Love that, Benjamin. Make sure you connect with us. Grab that checklist I just put in the chat. Let me know if that does not work for any reason, since I did it real quick. Maria, it sounds like a lot of entry jobs do not have benefits. Any advice on working those jobs that don't pay a lot or don't have benefits? Is it just worth the experience? So that's a great question. And it's a personal one. A lot of questions are, it depends, or answers to questions. And a little bit of it depends on your situation. If you can afford to work without benefits, if you're still on your parents' health insurance or something, or school, then, definitely take it. If you have multiple options and you feel like you can wait it out and see what else comes along, that's fine too. So you'll find, especially like listening to the different people on the EPR podcast, you'll find that some people started a lot in volunteer and doing work for free. Other people, their first jobs, my first job was with government. So I had more benefits than I ever expected when I first started. They actually got worse as the years went on. So it kind of just depends on if you think you can hold out for something better. It is good to be working, though. I think any experience is kind of good experience, but it's completely understandable if you set the bar for yourself and say, this is what I want. Millennials, I don't know how old you are, but millennials and Gen Z have a bad rap for asking for too much. That's one of the generation gaps you'll find in workplaces, is that seasoned professionals, when they got jobs and started working, it was all about hard work, and these benefits and stuff weren't something you expected to have right out of high school or college. So fortunately for you, there's lots of options, and you may be able to find something that does, especially with remote work options. So I know it's not the best answer. There's no right or wrong, but really just figure out what works best for you. And if you think it's going to add to your resume, you might want to take it. Let's see. Thanks, Zoe. Eugenie, where can you find paid green internships experience? I think the first thing you should do is just Google paid green job or internship experience and see what comes up. And then in the networking map that I've provided on my website, hopefully you can look at that and see what nonprofits and things are in your area, and really just kind of start asking around and searching. So they are out there. And that's our time for 15. So I'm going to have to cut it off. Sarah, I'm going to read your question here. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn or by email afterwards, we can finish this. But thank you so much for everyone for attending today.